The British came to India in 1608 as the traders in the form of the East Indian Company, who had the exclusive to right of the trading in India under the charter granted by the Queen Elizabeth I in 1600. In the 1765, the company, who still now had the purely the trading function, the obtained the Diwani, that is right over the revenue and the civil justice of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. This started it is the career as the traditional power in 1858 in the wake of the Sipahi mutiny. The British crowned the Assam and directly responsibility for the governance of India. This rule the continued until India was the granted independence on August 15th and 1947. With the independence came the need for the constitution. Hence, the Constituent Assembly was formed on the purpose of in 1946 and on the January 26, 1950. The Constitution came into being, however, the various features of the Indian Constitution and polity, Indian Constitution and polity, Indian Constitution and polity. For this the purpose in 1946 and on January 26, 1950, the Constitution came into the being. However, the various features of the Indian Constitution and polity have their root in the British rule. There were certain events in the British rule that laid down the legal framework for the organization and the functioning of the government and the administration in British India. These even have the greatly influence over the constitution and polity. They were expanded here in the chronological order under two major headings: the Company Rules 1873 to 1858, the Crown Rule 1858 to 1947. The Company Rules 1773 and 1858, Regulating Act of 1773, Regulating Act. तो फर्स्ट शुरू हुआ था Regulating Act of 1773. This act was the great constitutional important as it was the first step taken by the British government to the control and regulate the affair of the East Indian Company in India. तो ये फर्स्ट पॉइंट है the Regulating Act of 1773. This act was the great constitutional importance as it was the first step taken by the British government to control and regulate the affair of the East Indian Company in India. Now be it recognized for the first time the political and administrative function of the company, and C is the it led the foundation. It laid the foundation of the central administration in India. The features of this the act were as follows. The features of this act were as follows. Is the designate the government of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal and the create and the executive council of 4 members to the SH team. The first such the Governor General was the Lord Warren Hastings. The first Governor General of India, Lord Warren Hastings. Lord Warren Hastings, first Governor General of India, British. It made the Governor of Bombay and Madras Presidency subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. It made the Governor of the Bombay and Madras Presidency subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal, unlike the earlier when the three presidencies were the independent to one another. It provided for the establishment of the Supreme Court at Calcutta 1774. तो फर्स्ट इंडियन सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहते कलकत्ता में 1774. It provided for the establishment of the Supreme Court at Calcutta. Supreme Court at Calcutta 1774. The comprising one Chief Justice and three other judges. One Chief Justice and other three judges. It prohibited the servant of the company from the engaging in the private trade or accepting present of the bribes from the natives. In the instance, the control of the British government over the company by the requiring the code of the director or governing body of the company to report on it is the revenue, civil and military affair in India. Amending Act of 1781. 1781. Amending Act of 1781. In the bid to rectify the defect of the Regulating Act of 1773, the British Parliament passed the Amendment Act of 1781, also known as the Act of the Settlement, तो फर्स्ट रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट 1773 तो गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल Lord Warren Hastings, the first Governor General of Bengal, Lord Warren Hastings, and the Kolkata's the first time of Indian the establish of the prophet by establish of the Supreme Court at Kolkata 1774. The Amending Act of 1781. In the bid to the rectify the defect of the Regulating Act of 1773. The British Parliament passed the Amendment Act of 1781, also known as the Act of the Settlement. The features of the Act were as follows. It exempted the Governor General and the Council from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for the act done by them in their official capacity. Similarly, it also exempt the servant of the company from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for their official action. It escalated the revenue matter and the matter arising in the collection of the revenue from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It provided that the Supreme Court was to have the jurisdiction over all the inhabitation of Kolkata 8. It also the required the court of the administered the personal law of the defendant, that is the Hindus were to be the trier according to the Hindus were to be the trier according to the Hindus law, and Muslim were to be the trier according to the Muhammadan law. It is laid down that the appeals from the provincial court could be the taken to the Governor General in Council and not be the Supreme Court, not to the Supreme Court. It empowered the Governor General in Council to the frame regulation for the provincial court and council. Pitt's Indian Act. Peace Indian Act of 1784. The Peace Indian Act of 1784. The next important act was the Peace Indian Act of 1784. The features of this act were as follows. It the distinguence between the commercial and the political function of the company. It allowed the court of the directors to the manage the commercial affair, but they created a new body called the Board of Control to the manage the political affair. Thus, it is the established as a system of the double government. It the impart the board of the control to the survive and the direct all the operate. The first time Peace Indian Act cover the first time Peace Indian Act 1784. This is the and it the empowered the board of the control to the survive and the direct all the operation of the civil and the military government or the revenue of the British and the positions in India. Thus, the act was the significant for two reasons. The first, the company territories. The first, the company territories in India were for the first time the core British position in India. The second British governor was given the Supreme Court control over the company. Supreme Court control over the company affair administration in India. Act of 1786. In the 1786, Lord Cornwallis was the appointed the Governor General of Bengal. He the placed to demand to accept the post where he the should be the given power to the override the decision of the council in the special cases. He would also the commander in chief. Accordingly, the code of the 1786 was enacted to the act of the board of the provincial. The Satar Act of 1793. Satar Act 1793. The features of the act were as follow. It extended the overriding the power given to the Lord Cornwallis over his the council to all the Viceroys, Governor General, and the Governor of the presidencies. It gave the Governor General more the powerful and the control over the government of the subordinate presidencies of the Bombay and Madras. It the extended the monopoly of the company in the Indian for the another period of the 20 years. It the provided that the commander in the chief commander in chief was not to be a member of the Governor General Council unless he there was no appointed. He added the laid it laid down that the member of the board of the control and the ship they are the step where the henceforth the Indian revenue. The Charter Act यानी 20 साल बाद एक्ट आया तो Charter Act of 1813 the features of this act were as the follow. It abolished the trade monopoly of the company in India. That is, the Indian trade was the thrown open to all the British merchants. However, it continued the monopoly of the company over trade in the and trade with China. Tea and trade with China. It asserted the sovereignty of the British crown over the company the territories in India. It allowed the Christian missionaries to come to India for the purpose of the enlightenment the people. It provided for the spread of the Western education among the inhabitation of the British territories in India. It authorized the local government in India and to the impose tax on the persons. They could also punish the persons for not paying taxes. Taxes. The Charter Act of 1833. This act was the final step toward the centralization in the British India. Centralization, which is the feature of the acts, were also flow. It made of the Governor General of the Bengal as the Governor General of India and the basis in him all the civil and the military powers. Thus, the act created for the first time Governor of India the having authority over the entire the territorial area the possessed by the British in India. Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. First Governor General of India. The first Governor General of India, Lord William Bentinck. First Governor General of India, Lord William Bentinck. It deprived the governor of the Bombay and Madras and their legislative power. The Governor General of India was given exclusive legislative power for the entire British India. The laws made of the Provisional Act were called as the regulation, while the law made under this act were called as Act. It ended the activities of the East Indian Company as the commercial body which became a purely administrative body. It provided that the company territories in the Indian were held by it in the territories for the hills The majesty is the heirs and the successor. The Saturn Act of 1833, the attempt to introduce the system of the open